He sat in the back corner of every classroom, never raised his hand, never spoke unless directly called on, kept his head down in the hallways, and ate lunch in the library where the silence felt safer than the cafeteria chaos. It wasn't shyness, exactly. It was survival. Because somewhere between elementary school and high school, Joseph had learned a brutal truth. Being noticed meant being a target. Better to fade into the walls, to become part of the furniture, to exist without actually existing. His classmates had perfected the art of looking through him. They'd walk past his desk like it was empty, form groups around him while he sat alone, talk about weekend plans as if he wasn't 3 feet away. Once, someone literally put their backpack on his desk because they didn't realize he was sitting there. Joseph had stopped trying to be seen. It hurt less that way. But invisibility had a price. And that price was loneliness, so deep it felt like drowning in a room full of people. Miss Patterson's announcement hit the classroom like a bomb. Your final project is worth 40% of your grade. You'll be working in groups of 4. This project will make or break your semester. The room erupted in excited chatter. Friends immediately turned to each other, forming groups with their eyes before Miss Patterson even finished explaining. I'll be assigning groups randomly, Miss Patterson continued, and the room groaned in unison. This is about learning to work with different people. Real-world skills. She started calling names. Joseph's stomach clenched tighter with each group announced. Please don't put me with the popular kids. Please don't put me with anyone who'll make this worse than it has to be. Group 7. Daniela Martinez, Tyler Brooks, Ashley Wilson, and Joseph Park. The oxygen left Joseph's lungs. Daniela Martinez. Student body president, straight-A student, heading to an Ivy League school. Tyler Brooks. Star basketball player with a full-ride scholarship already locked down. Ashley Wilson. Editor of the school paper, debate team captain, future lawyer. And Joseph, the invisible boy. He watched their faces when Miss Patterson announced his name. Watched Daniela's smile falter. Watched Tyler's eyes scan the room confused, trying to remember who Joseph even was. Watched Ashley literally mouth who to Daniela. This was going to be a nightmare. Their first group meeting happened after school in the library. Joseph arrived 10 minutes early and sat in the corner, watching his groupmates arrive. They came together, laughing about something from lunch. They didn't see Joseph until Daniela finally scanned the empty tables and spotted him. Oh, you're already here. Her voice carried surprise, like she'd forgotten he was part of the group. They sat down, and Tyler immediately took charge. Okay, so this project is massive. We need to create a comprehensive analysis of social movements in the 20th century. Presentation, research paper, and visual component. It's literally 40% of our final grade. We cannot mess this up, Ashley added, pulling out her color-coded planner. I have a 4.0 to maintain. So, let's divide the work, Daniela suggested, already making notes. Tyler, you're good with public speaking. You handle the presentation delivery. Ashley, you write the research paper. I'll handle the visual component and design. They'd assigned everything in under 2 minutes. Everything except Joseph's role. What about? Tyler paused, clearly struggling to remember Joseph's name. Joseph, Daniela supplied quietly, glancing at him. What are you good at? Joseph's mouth went dry. All 3 of them were staring at him, actually seeing him for the first time all semester. He wanted to disappear into the chair. Research, he managed quietly. I'm good at research. Tyler exchanged a look with Ashley. The kind of look that said everything. We got stuck with the weird, quiet kid, and now we're going to fail. Fine, Ashley said with barely hidden frustration. You can gather sources. Just like basic stuff. Articles, books, whatever. We'll handle the actual important parts. They exchanged phone numbers to create a group chat. Joseph noticed they created it without adding him first, then remembered and included him as an afterthought. For the next week, Joseph was invisible again, even in his own group. The group chat was brutal. Messages flew constantly. Inside jokes. Plans to meet. Updates on their progress. But whenever Joseph contributed anything, the conversation would pause awkwardly, then continue as if he hadn't spoken. Joseph, I found some really good sources on the civil rights movement. Primary documents from the National Archives. 20 minutes of silence. Tyler, anyway, practice was insane today, lol. Daniela, did coach actually make you run that much? Ashley, Tyler, your stamina is embarrassing. Joseph tried again a few days later. Joseph, I've compiled about 40 academic sources, organized by movement and time period. I can share the file. Nothing. The message sat there, unacknowledged, while they continued planning their sections without him. It was like screaming into a void. So Joseph stopped trying to be seen. He did what he always did. He disappeared into the work itself. While his group mates focused on making their parts look impressive, Joseph dove deeper. He spent hours in the library database, reached out to a professor at the local university who specialized in social movements, found archives and first-hand accounts, built a research foundation so comprehensive it could support a doctoral thesis.
He didn't do it for them.
He did it because the work deserved to be done right, because history mattered, because these movements changed the world, and they deserved more than surface-level analysis. If his group mates didn't want to see him, fine, but they'd see his work. 3 days before the presentation, disaster struck. Joseph was in the library when his phone exploded with notifications. The group chat was in meltdown. Ashley, this is a disaster. Tyler, how did this even happen? Daniela, we're going to fail. We're actually going to fail. Joseph scrolled up, heart pounding. What happened? Apparently, Ashley's laptop had crashed. Her entire research paper, 3 weeks of work, completely corrupted. The backup drive had failed. Everything was gone. They had 72 hours until the presentation, and 40% of their project had just vanished. Tyler, can we ask for an extension? Daniela, Patterson doesn't give extensions. She said that on day 1. We're screwed. Ashley, my GPA is ruined. My college applications are ruined. Everything is ruined. Joseph stared at his phone. This was his moment to stay invisible, to let them fail. They'd ignored him, dismissed him, treated him like he didn't exist. Why should he save them? But then he thought about all those hours in the library, all that research, all those stories of people who fought for justice, who stood up when it mattered, who did the right thing even when it was hard. His fingers moved across the keyboard. Joseph, I can fix this. The chat went silent. He could picture their faces, confused, probably not even remembering who sent that message. Joseph, I have all the research, detailed notes, analysis, everything you need. I can write the paper. 3 dots appeared, disappeared,
Appeared again.
Ashley, what do you mean you have everything? Joseph, I've been building a comprehensive research file since day 1. Primary sources, academic journals, historical analysis. I can turn it into a paper. Tyler, how much of a paper? Joseph, a complete paper. I'll have it done by tomorrow night. Daniela, Joseph, this paper needs to be at least 20 pages. College-level analysis. We have 72 hours. Joseph, I know. I'll have it done. Another long sigh. Ashley, why would you do this for us? We've been horrible to you. Joseph stopped typing, stared at those words. The first acknowledgement that he'd been invisible. Joseph, because it's the right thing to do. And because this project deserves better than failure. Joseph didn't sleep for 48 hours. He transformed his research into a paper that was more than they needed. 25 pages of detailed analysis connecting the civil rights movement to modern activism, the women's suffrage movement to current gender equality struggles, labor movements to present-day workers' rights. He found connections nobody had taught them to see. He made history breathe. At 11 p.m. the night before the presentation, he sent the paper to the group chat. Joseph, done. He closed his laptop and finally let himself collapse into bed. His phone buzzed minutes later. Then again. And again. Daniela, Joseph, this is incredible. Ashley, this is better than incredible. This is publishable. Tyler, dude, where did you even find some of these sources? Ashley, I'm reading this, and I'm actually crying. You made me care about history.
Me.
I hate history. Daniela. Joseph, we need to talk. Tomorrow, before class. Joseph stared at the messages, something tight unwinding in his chest. They saw him. They actually saw him. The presentation day arrived. Joseph walked into class expecting to fade back into invisibility, having done his part. Instead, Daniela, Tyler, and Ashley were waiting for him at the door. We need to change the presentation, Daniela said immediately. Joseph's heart sank. They hated the paper. They were going to throw him under the bus. We're adding you as the lead researcher in the introduction, Tyler continued. This whole project is built on your work.
Everyone needs to know that.
And we're all presenting together, Ashley added. Your research deserves to be heard in your own voice. I don't do public speaking, Joseph said quietly. We know, Daniela said gently. But we also know you have things worth saying. And we're not going to let you be invisible anymore. The presentation was perfect. Tyler delivered the opening with his natural charisma. Ashley handled the policy analysis with her debate precision. Daniela's visual component was stunning. But the moment that mattered came when Joseph stood up to present the research foundation. His voice shook at first. His hands trembled. But as he talked about the sources, about the connections he'd found, about why these movements mattered, his voice grew stronger. He wasn't invisible anymore. When they finished, the class was silent. Then Miss Patterson started clapping. Slowly, everyone joined. That, Miss Patterson said, was the best project I've seen in 15 years of teaching. After class, Ashley pulled Joseph aside. I'm sorry, she said, and her eyes were wet. We treated you like you didn't matter. Like you were invisible. But you were the most important person in that group. Your work saved us. You saved us. We want to make it right, Tyler added. Starting now. Starting with actually being your friends. If you'll give us that chance. Joseph looked at them. At these people who'd looked through him for months. Who'd ignored his messages and dismissed his contributions. Who'd only seen him when they needed him. But he also saw something else.
Growth. Shame.
Genuine remorse. Okay, Joseph said quietly. But I need you to understand something. Invisible people aren't actually invisible. We're just not seen. There's a difference. And there are a lot more of us than you think. Daniela nodded, tears streaming down her face. We see you now, Joseph. I promise we see you. The project earned them a 98%. An A+. Miss Patterson submitted Joseph's research to a national history competition where it won second place and a scholarship. But the grade wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the day Daniela invited him to sit with them at lunch. What mattered was Tyler defending him when someone made a joke at his expense. What mattered was Ashley asking his opinion on her debate arguments and actually listening. What mattered was being seen. Joseph still sat in the back of classrooms. Still spent lunch periods in the library sometimes. Still valued quiet over chaos. But he wasn't invisible anymore. Not to his group mates. Not to himself. Because the truth was, he'd never been invisible. He'd been overlooked. And sometimes, all it takes is one person to look closer. To see past the silence. To recognize that quiet strength is still strength. Joseph had saved their grades. But in doing so, he'd saved something more important. He'd proved that the invisible students, the ones in the back corners, the ones nobody notices, they're not empty spaces. They're just waiting for someone to actually look. And when someone finally does, they shine.